Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, my first World of Warships video of 2024. So, I guess I'd best make it a good one. The hero of today's show is none other than Flambass. He needs little introduction. I believe this is his free-to-play account because his name is actually Flambass rather than something made up by his subscribers to punish him on his regular account. He's sailing the British Tier 9 battlecruiser, HMS Duncan, in this Tier 10 arms race battle here on the Mountain Range map. The Duncan's a fairly good ship. She's a battlecruiser rather than a true battleship, so in typical battlecruiser style she's got lots of really big guns, she's fast, but her armour is terrible. The ship comes with 9 419mm guns, which will penetrate 27mm, well, they'll penetrate a lot more than 27mm, but they'll overmatch 27mm of armour, which basically means every cruiser that she's going to face, and certainly a lot of the other battle cruisers, because she only has 25mm of bow and stern plating herself, which can be overmatched by 380mm guns or higher. So basically every battleship that she's going to face, except for, what's that really, really bad British battleship at Tier 9, that at Marlborough, that's the one that only gets 14-inch guns at Tier 9. Oh yeah, oh dear, the less said about that the better. So basically, she doesn't even have enough armour to repel her own caliber shells. Her bow and stern plating can be overmatched by all but one of the battleships in a matchmaking spread, which means potentially she can be citadeled from the front or the rear. She does have 32mm of deck plating, but that's nothing special either. Every heavy cruiser and a lot of the light cruisers with the IFHE skill are going to penetrate 32mm of deck plating with their high explosive shells, so do try not to get shot at. This is one of those ships that absolutely can dish it out, but very definitely can't take it. She does get access to the specialised repair team consumable though, so she can heal back a lot of the damage that she is going to take. And as a battlecruiser with a base top speed of 32 knots, she also gets access to the engine boost consumable. Her final consumable is the defensive anti-aircraft fire consumable, which on this ship, more than most, is a bit like sticking a plaster on a sucking chest wound, because, well, it's only useful if there are actually carriers in play, and even then, it's not that useful, and the base AA on this thing is pretty terrible anyway, so, I mean, it's there if he needs it. Pray he never needs it. I mean, he shouldn't. There's no carrier in play in this battle. But yeah, the less said about that particular consumable, the better. So, anyway, arms race, Tier 10. I'm sure you know the deal by now. Various different buffs are going to be popping up. The enemy team have already managed to claim 2 of them. Flambass's team have claimed none. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, this is not getting off to a good start. Consumables get dropped into various spots on the ocean. You can see them popping up on the minimap. Be within the radius of the consumable. When it goes active, your team grabs the associated buff. Something that the enemy team have done, and Flambass's team have not. Oh, wait, spoke too soon. Somebody on Flambass's team just picked up a health regeneration buff, so that's a very, very slow, permanent trickle heal. There are 3 different levels of upgrade to each of these buffs. Obviously, the more times you pick it up, the stronger it gets. As you can see, the Duncan also gets torpedoes. They're not particularly good. The firing angles are, but it's only 1 torpedo on each side, so it's more of a surprise, it's me thing than something you should be relying on. The torpedoes do a hefty amount of damage though. Nearly 30,000. Oh dear, are you coming out and giving broadside? Wow, really? That's it? It's kind of underwhelming. Oh, the turret arrangement on this thing's kind of weird as well. Basically, all 3 turrets are in the front. Well, the front-ish. 2 in the front and 1 immediately aft the bridge tower. Sort of midships. It does have reasonably good clearance though, so it's not that awkward to actually get it pointing at the target. And while this single torpedo in each side does do a hefty amount of damage, that's obviously going to be mitigated by the torpedo damage reduction that your target has, something that the Duncan does not have an awful lot of. Its torpedo damage reduction is fairly terrible as well, and of course it gets no hydro, so torpedoes are a big problem for this thing. So we have a bit of a good news, bad news situation here, and honestly it's mostly bad news. The enemy team have picked up 4 levels of buffs. They've got the first 2 kills. Flambass's team are down 2 destroyers. They're ahead at 200 points already. Good news, somebody on Flambass's team has managed to pick up the 2nd rank of the hit point regeneration buff. Flambass has managed to put on enough of a burst of speed there to dodge the Harlem's torpedoes. I think they were the Harlem's torpedoes. Honestly, I can't remember whether or not Dutch cruisers get them. Let's say it was the Harlem's torpedoes. Let's not investigate that one too closely. Desperately trying to finish this guy off. Honestly, he's had really bad luck with the... I mean, trust me, the guns are better than this. He just hasn't had any luck with citadels when he absolutely should have. I mean, these are 419mm guns. They can overmatch 27mm of armour. The Harlem should be dead by now. And yet, he's not. Here comes his airstrike. This could hurt. Remember, he only has 32mm of deck plating. Thankfully, that hit point regeneration buff and his own specialised repair teams are able to heal back most of this damage, but he really needs that Dutch... Oh, great, there's a destroyer in front of him. Oh, this could be very bad. That Harlem needs to die. Look at the damage he's been taking. I mean, this goes to illustrate just how badly armoured this thing is. He's only got the Harlem and a lightning shooting at him. And he's already blown through 1 charge of his specialised repair team. I mean, it's possible the Petropavlovsk over there was shooting at him as well. Okay, the Harlem's finally gone down. Now he needs to make it into cover before he eats any torpedoes from the lightning. Look at his health bar. If not for that hit point regeneration buff, he would have been dead already. This thing really cannot stand up to any kind of concentrated fire. He should be able to make it into the cover of the island here, of course, before any torpedoes launched by the lightning reach him. But, oh, look at that. Look at that. He's burning. He can't put the fire out for another minute. He's made it into cover. Oh, come on, repair party. There it is. How close was that? Wow. 500 health. and he was still taking damage from the fire, and then the repair party came off cooldown. You might want to just chill out here for a bit and recover some of that health, because I suspect you're probably going to need it, judging by the amount of ships just waiting for you on the other side of this island, including, of course, the lightning. Oh, hang on. Your hydro. That's probably the Prinz Ruprecht. Yeah, it doesn't look like the Prinz Ruprecht's prepared to... I mean, you've recovered all the health you're going to recover, at least until your repair party comes off cooldown again. And let's not forget, we haven't seen any torpedoes from that lightning. And he does know what you're doing because you're hydroed. Is he trying to bait the torpedoes here? Maybe spot the lightning? I don't know how quickly this thing accelerates if he suddenly spots any torpedoes. Remember, he doesn't have hydro of his own. Not quite sure what his plan here is. I mean, it's possible he's trying to bait lightning torpedoes. It's also possible he's just lurking here, waiting for another 30 seconds or so for his repair team to come back off cooldown and get himself back up to slightly more than half health, but it doesn't look like the enemy team are prepared to give him the time that he's going to need. Here comes the Prinz Ruprecht. Well, that may have been a very hasty decision on his behalf. He did have a lot of health, but he just got spanked there, I think, by the friendly Azuma. Now, let's not forget, he does have torpedoes. Flambass has 1. Flambass's torpedo, however, does double the damage of the Prinz Ruprecht's torpedoes, but the Prinz Ruprecht fires more than 1. Except he doesn't. I really don't understand what the Prinz Ruprecht's plan was there. If it was to die pointlessly, then congratulations, mission accomplished. There's the lightning. Torpedoes going for the Azuma. Lightning down. If the enemy plan there was to lose 2 ships, then good job. However, the team have just lost the Slava, and while the Lightning's torpedoes did not kill the Azuma, it was just finished off by the Petropavlovsk over there. By some miracle. Honestly, I don't understand how Flambass is still alive here. The Prinz Ruprecht absolutely should have torpedoed him, and yet didn't. Certainly not complaining about it. He does need to finish off the Petro over there, though. And while his 419mm guns will overmatch up to 27mm of armour, that's a Petropavlovsk. In a game where almost all cruisers at this tier have anything between 25 and 27 millimeters of armor protecting their extremities, and most battleships have 32, that thing has 40. So you kind of just have to batter it to death the old-fashioned way. Ah, and it's dead. Although the team have just lost their 7 provinces, so despite that sudden flurry of enemy casualties, both teams are now at kill parity, with 6 casualties apiece. However, the capture zone has now appeared in the middle of the map, and the enemy team are in the process of flipping it. Flambas taking a quick look at the friendly Minnesota back there, the US Navy Tier 9 battleship, and probably thinking to himself, well, that slow-ass thing with a top speed of 23 knots is probably not going to be much use to the team alive for the rest of the battle. And he's kind of right, but he's also kind of wrong. Not that thing up ahead, that's the Brandenburg, I mean behind him to the east. Just about as far east as he can possibly be and still be in the same map. That Minnesota. Do you ever have one of those battles where you watch somebody's performance and you just genuinely cannot figure out whether or not they were a positive or a negative influence on the team's chances of actually winning the battle? Yeah, the Minnesota. We'll be seeing more of him very, very shortly. Well, the team's Puerto Rico has gone down, killed by that guy, the Grosser Kurfürst. Flambas scoring a couple of hits with the high explosive shells and setting a fire. The team are now 300 points behind. Well, the azimuth over there could be a bit of a problem. Flambas is technically sailing into a bit of a crossfire here, but really... And yes, the azimuth is shooting at him, because of course he is, but what kind of choice does Flambas have here? The enemy team are still flipping that central cap. And in arms race, this is not like a normal domination mode cap circle. Whoever controls that central cap starts racking up an insane amount of points. And of course, the longer the battle goes on, the smaller the cap circle becomes, so you're forced into closer and closer quarters combat. The team have just lost their Preußen, they're now even further behind on points. And Flambas is now, of course, within secondary range of the Grosser Kurfürst. And the Grosser Kurfürst secondaries are no laughing matter, unless you're in the Grosser Kurfürst, in which case they're hilarious. Remember, the Grosser Kurfürst can absolutely overmatch Flambas's bows, but his guns aren't even pointing in this direction. He sails straight into a torpedo, which doesn't do the full nearly 30,000 damage because the Grosser Kurfürst, unlike the Duncan, actually has torpedo damage reduction. Yep, that got his attention. It's like he was hoping that the secondaries were going to finish Flambas off. But Flambas now has his full and undivided attention. But Flambas also has a torpedo ready to go on the other side, and the torpedo firing angles on this thing aren't very good. You don't have to overexpose your broadside and invite citadels in order to get them away. He's taken out the Grosser Kurfürst.
Torpedoes to port. We destroyed an enemy battleship.
Oh, torpedoes. Yeah, there's a very, very suspicious and angry-looking smoke screen over there, but this is not a problem. Any that were going to hit him would have hit the wreck of the Grosser Kurfürst anyway. Flambas is now, along with the Brandenburg, contesting but not flipping this cap circle. They are being blocked by something. Probably one of the enemy destroyers, probably on the other side of the island to Flambas's immediate right side. And of course, he doesn't have hydro. And he really, really doesn't want to get torpedoed. It's going to be the Harakazi. Some more shots there from... Oh, hang on a second. The cap is no longer contested. Flambas, you just spotted something. Yep, that, the Mogador. High explosive loaded, shuts out. Now, the Mogador is not a particularly stealthy destroyer, but it is very fast and its torpedoes are pretty nasty. Course change, because if you can see a destroyer, I guarantee he saw you first and there were probably torpedoes on the way. Yep, there they are. That's one set of 5. He did knock out one torpedo launcher, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. The Mogador's got a double and triple torpedo launcher on each side, so it's likely that he knocked out a torpedo launcher that had already been exhausted. It is now turning around. Oh, oh, that's going to hurt. There's one. Oh, this could be the end of him. Is he going to... Whoa! Yeah. Escaped that one by the skin of his teeth. This guy does need to die, of course, and naturally everybody's shooting at him. Well, I say naturally everybody's shooting at him. Everybody should start shooting at destroyers the second they get spotted, but, well, yeah. Would have, should have, could have. Usually don't, but today they did. Right, the Minnesota is administering a, well, I say administering a beating to the Azima. The Minnesota has good guns. It's got a lot of them. They're a major upgrade over the Kansas at tier 8. But it's got a horrible reload to go with its horrible top speed of 23 knots. It takes 40 seconds to reload the guns on that thing. Let's give him a helping hand, shall we? Oh, and he's got the armor piercing loaded. And the Azima is turning to give broadside. Is Flambas going to get a citadel in this game? Yes! Oh. And, well, what a way to go out. So, that's the Kraken Unleashed. That's pretty good. More than 200,000 damage done. But Flambas's contribution to this battle is now over. He has 3 surviving teammates against 3 enemies. Now, they do have a Chung Mu, which is going to be a powerful counter to the enemy Harakazi. The Brandenburg, however, has been taking a bit of a slapping, and he's the only thing on the team, at the moment, inside that central cap circle. But look at the size of that central cap circle. Oh, oh, there's the Harakazi. Revealed by the Chung Mu's radar. Go, go, gadget, Chung Mu, main battery guns, get him. Get him. Get him before he torpedoes, well, anybody. He's been forced out of his smoke. Because, of course, the radar doesn't last forever. It's destroyer radar, so it's very short duration. But he's forced him out of the smoke, so now he can be seen. Come on, baby. I mean, that works both ways, of course. The Chung Mu can be seen too. But he's going to win this gunfight. Yes, he's taking them down. 3 against 2. And they're still flipping the cap, thanks to the Brandenburg over there. But the Harakazi did get his torpedoes away. No, it's fine. They've missed. This is good. The Brandenburg, clearly capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, saw the smoke screen, recognised the threat, put an island between himself and it. So he's sitting there in that cap circle. Oh, the Thunder is going to be an issue. Brandenburg, what are you doing? No, stay tucked in behind the island, Brandenburg. You do not have the health to challenge a Thunderer. Oh, there go his secondaries. Yeah, he's clearly been spotted through the saddle in the island up ahead there. Oh, this is bad. Because Thunderer High Explosive is really, really good. The Thunderer is given a large amount of broadside, though. The Brandenburg does only have its front turrets available to fire. Probably would have citadeled and maybe even killed the Thunderer if he'd had the armor piercing loaded, but he didn't. He had the high explosive, which means he is going to die. Now, to be fair to the Brandenburg, it's likely that he'd preloaded the high explosive because there was a Harakazi trying to kill him. But he did have plenty of time to reload armor piercing once the Harakazi was no longer a threat. Didn't, and so the Thunderer escaped with minimal damage taken. The Chung Mu trying to get a kill on the Izumo, but it looks like those torpedoes missed. Possibly one hit. But the Minnesota has finally arrived. And of course, since this is basically the first chance he's had to actually take part in the battle proper, he's on full health. And he has lots of very, very powerful guns, which he's using to fire high explosive at the Thunderer. Okay, the Thunderer was angled. I mean, under the circumstances, high explosive was not a particularly terrible choice of ammunition to use. The Thunderer is now getting himself, because he is flipping that cap circle, so if he's smart, he's going to get himself into cover behind that island. But the Minnesota, even though it only has a top speed of 23 knots, it's using that top speed of 23 knots to kind of drive himself into a crossfire between the Thunderer and the Izumo. Now, you could say, and you'd be right, what choice does the Minnesota have? Because the Thunderer's flipping, he has to get into that cap circle. So we shouldn't really judge the Minnesota too harshly. He hasn't really done anything wrong. I mean, he's putting himself in a bad position, but he doesn't really have any choice if he wants to win this game. Shots out at the Izumo because he doesn't actually have shots at the Thunderer yet, and he's made it into the cap circle. And now... oh dear. Oh, this is... You know that's a Thunderer, right? You know it's got 18-inch guns. If it's firing armor piercing, you're a dead man. But it's a Thunderer, so naturally it's firing high explosive. So the Minnesota doesn't instantly die. The thing is, Thunder High Explosive is really, really dangerous. I mean, there's a double fire going there, and there are huge chunks of Minnesota health being shaved off. So now the Minnesota turns. He turns to angle against the ship that's firing high explosive at him and exposes broadside to the ship that's firing armor piercing at him. And even though he's got the broadside of the Thunderer, he's still firing high explosive at him. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. But even that isn't quite enough to throw it, as despite the loss of the Minnesota and the points gained from the enemy team, the timer expires and Flambass's team is still just far enough ahead that they somehow managed to win anyway. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the Minnesota getting into that cap circle possibly might have actually saved the game, even if he did commit the most outrageous pants-on-head stupid moves once he was in there. So you can see why I have a bit of a problem. I honestly can't tell whether or not the Minnesota was a zero or a hero. Either way, he did what he did, and yet despite that, the team still managed to win. Either way, I'm sure you're all going to have plenty to say about it in the comments, but that's it for today. I hope you were entertained, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.